Yogi, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. We've seen you, I think, perform 4 times in 3 different countries, so it's wonderful to have you here.
Hey, thank you. It's a pleasure for me.
Well, what I would like to talk about first is, you said on stage in Quebec that maybe the fact that you guys were a Pink Floyd tribute band is not really accurate, and that's something that's on Wikipedia, and that's something I had heard in the early 2000s. So can you tell us what the deal is? Were you really 2000 was your first album, and
yes.
and was that really your the first thing you did, or what's going on?
You first have to know that RPWL at that time, when you go that far away, it's wow.
Yeah.
Than 20 years. It was in 1998 or something when we came together for a fun band. And now I have to go even 10 years more, because I met Kalle when we were recording an album called Violet District. It was his band at the very early 90s, and it's quite some time ago,
right?
And but I remember that it was good working. It was a lot of fun, and we I worked in the studio, and Kalle worked in the studio, and a couple of years later, it must have been in 1997 or 1998, we met, and we just thought about having a band coming on stage again, having the fun again, and playing together. Right. And the thing we did was we jammed over old Pink Floyd songs with a couple of friends of mine.
Okay.
And so we were just the 4 strange guys that are playing 4 songs, but for 2 hours. And we didn't have a name at all. It was just playing, and at festivals and that. Here in the region, it was not more. But we found not only the fun of playing on stage, but we did a couple of songs together. And all those things that you do when you have a band, it felt really good. And a guy from a record company got this demo tape and said, "Hey, let's do an album together." And then we did this album. We didn't have a name. I know our drummer wanted to call us Super Band, and I mean, it was that much fun, but it came clear that the record label didn't just want to have fun, but wanted to have a real band and a real record. So we recorded this record, and it was God Has Failed, and we took the first letters of our names, and so RPWL was born with the 4 crazy guys that were former known as the 4 guys playing these weird songs. And this was the whole thing about the thing with the tribute band came because there was a tribute album here in Europe with old Floyd songs, and the guys that did the album came to us and hey, we heard you're playing old Floyd songs. Don't you want to do a song? And we did Cymbeline in a They thought, hey, you can have 5 minutes, but of course our version was 20 minutes or something, so we had to cut it anyway. And we did this, and it was rather. I think it was. This could be the start. Maybe this was the start of the band, or the first album was the start of the band. But it all came together, and a couple of months later, we were in a German progressive rock magazine on the front page. And to be honest, I didn't know about progressive rock till that time, because the thing is, when I bought Pink Floyd when I was young, as a fan, and when I was a kid, there was rock, jazz, and pop.
Right.
And I didn't know about progressive rock at all. But we had fun with this too. So it's at the moment I think we are neo-progressive art rock, but I'm sure. It depends on the art, I think.
right. Well, that is very similar.
You know best. I'm sure you know best.
Well, no, I mean, I don't really get into that whole subgenre thing. You can get into some really bad arguments about that. So But I kind of came to progressive rock in the same way, where somebody saw a T-shirt I was wearing and said, "Oh, you like progressive rock?" And I'm like, "No, I just like classic rock." He's like, "Well, what bands do you like?" I'm like, "Rush, Pink Floyd, The Who, all these progressive rock bands, Genesis and Yes." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you like progressive rock?" I'm like, "What's progressive rock?" And then 10 years later, I own progrock.com, right? So it completely changed my life,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I completely know what you're saying. So here we are, 2000 to 2004. You put out 3 albums. You end up playing, I think, even headlining the very first Rozfest. What was that? What was the scene kind of like back then? It was just as I was getting into this as well.
It was a fantastic experience, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because it was that, especially when we came to Rozfest, which is such a fantastic festival, and had this audience really listening to it, and that was something new in maybe this is something that you have in progressive rock, because when I remember back in the 90s when you played a festival and people were dancing and maybe buying a pizza, and eat. And when we did our first concert was in Poland. It was in 2001 or something around that. Right. And we came out there, and it was a big audience because at that time we were played in the radio, and it was thousands of people. That was brilliant, But we came on stage, and the people were sitting there and were cheering, and it was all, and we played the first thing, and there was absolutely quietness.
Right.
Yeah, and we played there, and during the first song, I thought, okay, what did we exactly fuck up that? And is the sound, is it me? And we played this first song, always with this thing in the head, and in our mind, and so the last song, the first song was over, and they stood up, and they cheered, and after 20 seconds it was FAP!
What song was that? Do you remember?
I think it was Hole in the Sky.
Oh yeah. That's wonderful.
And this is kind of like the my first progressive rock experience. And at Rozfest you have this mixture. You have this mixture of people that are really enthusiastic, and have people that are really listening, and it's always in kind of a balance. It was a wonderful experience. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and you're the first band to play it twice, I believe, in 2007. I think you guys came back. So, so it was great. And then, how did the Ray Wilson thing happen?
The Ray Wilson thing, you mean that he with Roses?
Yeah.
I saw him in the maybe you help me. When was the Calling All Stations tour? It was.
I'll take a look here. It is 97.
97. Yeah, it was that time when we came together as a band. Yeah.
And
we were in the Olympic Stadium together, watching Genesis and Ray Wilson, because I really liked it. The others, because they were really interested.
Yeah.
And, I saw it, and I thought there were many, not every song, of course, but there were many songs where I thought, wow, Genesis with a real singer.
Right.
And, I had really, I mean, we all know how good Peter Gabriel is. There's no doubt about it. And we all know about the extraordinary gifted Phil Collins, of course. But it was real, this real singing where I was really wow. And I in 2004, I recognized that he's on the same record label than we were.
Oh, okay.
And, I thought, how great was it, because we had Roses and I sang it and I wasn't really satisfied, and I tried to sing it again, but I had the second idea. Maybe I just asked Ray Wilson, and we were at a concert. The record, And you know this when you look into the other's face and you know, oh wow, this will never happen. Never happen.
Right.
And 3 days later, he called me and said, "I do it."
Awesome.
Yeah, this is awesome. And we recorded the songs. We made a couple of gigs together.
Right.
That was also fantastic. And in the meantime, I'm doing all his records. So it's
amazing.
It's I mixed, I think, 6 or 7 records in the meantime.
Yeah.
Him and it's a great friend. He's such a great person. I mean, he's an artist, and you always have to treat artists as artists. And but it's cool. It's nice working with him. He's a nice guy. He's doing great concerts. It was a pleasure to play with him, and it was a pleasure to have him on a record. So it's I would do it the same way if it would happen again.
Well, you know, I'm so glad you brought up Calling All Stations, because it's a great segue to your new album, because Alien Afternoon would fit so well on this new album, don't you think?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, could be.
So the new album is really wonderful. Actually, I want to pull it up here, and it's not a concept album, but it has a science fiction theme. It's called Tales from Outer Space, and let's talk about it. It starts out so great. It's kind of this interesting kind of crunchy guitar thing happening in a new world. It was actually maybe a little bit, I was like, whoa, I was a little shocked here about what it was sounding like. I liked it immediately, first listen, which is unusual for me. And was there something different about that song that I as a non-musician don't really understand, that was a little bit outside what you normally do in that song?
The only thing, it's funny how you say it, because Mark, the only thing I know is we discussed a lot about the album, we did songs, and Kalle came up with this idea, and I listened to it. He played it to me at his studio, which is quite on the other side of the building.
Okay.
And the doors of the recording room were open, so I can look into in his studio. And he was playing that song, and I was immediately standing up, running to him, and said, "They're coming! They are coming!" I like this lick so much because it had this easiness that it has when you see a UFO, because there's nothing difficult about it, you know. It's so, and it was so cool, and but it's. With every album, you have this song that kicks you into the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was this song. I mean, that's maybe not the sophisticated song of the album.
Right.
It's not I don't know, everybody has its favorites, but it's the song that really kicked us into the whole thing. And this is, it's great. So it's always a special song for us, of course.
Right. And I mean, it needs to be the first song just for that reason as well, because it really does get it going, the whole album, don't you think?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm not going to go through every song, but the second song I really like too. It certainly does have, like, I got some notes on there. So it has the drums sound a little bit like Time from Pink Floyd at a place, and it's got this whistle sound in there, like very stereotypical, like 1950s eerie whistle for like a UFO coming down. And I've heard it everywhere. I've heard it in the Brady Bunch. I've heard it, so it was really interesting to hear you use that in the song.
51. It was so funny because we had this part that was coming after the chorus, and I liked it, and I played around, and we were coming again into the theme, and our drummer had this roto things, and we were recording, and I went into the recording room, and he played on this roto toms, and I was laughing and was saying, wow, you can't do that. And Kalle was coming into the recording room, running into the recording room, do it. And so it came to this part. yeah, it's this time feeling that you have when you, I mean, simply use those roto things
Right.
from the 70s. So it's, but it perfectly fits, and why you shouldn't do it. So
Right,
it's,
exactly. I didn't even think about it till like the third listen. I'm like, oh, hold on, here we go. I mean, this sounds very familiar to me.
yeah,
So it fit perfectly. It wasn't like I was like, oh, well, there you go. There's time right there,
yeah,
But and then the third track is Light of the New World, right? It's the
yeah.
longer track. Maybe you'll consider it the most sophisticated one or most complex one, as if that's really important. But what you want to tell me a little bit about that song? Because that one is the one I like best at first. I'm not quite sure it's my favorite song now, but
Really?
I really like that one right away.
Yeah. It's a cool song because I wanted to. I saw a series that um, how was it called? I think it was called Ancient Aliens or something.
Okay, yeah,
And I was so fascinated about yeah, I have to say I love to look at things from different views.
hmm
So you find it's really, you have to look, you have to have different views just to get a feeling for a thing. And I remember it was something about the pyramids,
hmm
and the pyramids meant to be maybe something that Tesla reinvented, and
right,
it was so fascinating. I mean, it's not the point if you believe it or not.
right.
It's just the point that that is another possibility where you say, hey, why not?
Yeah, I think I know that show. I think Leonard Nimoy was used to voice
uh,
over that show, Ancient
yeah,
Aliens.
and this was this I was interested in this whole thing, and I was digging a bit into this. They are not coming in the future, they are here since thousands of years.
Right.
And the idea was bringing this light as the main thing that you, I mean, this being connected with nature and being connected to the light that provides life. And so I, if you want, I created a religion out of that, which
hmm
was maybe yes or no the basic of everything that happened later.
Yes.
So playing with this thing makes Light of the World really very open. You know, you can have your own view of the things, and um, it's just nice to get into this mood of yeah, being happy that the sun is shining. You know,
Right.
not not maybe the happiness is not based into how much you can afford or how big is your car, but it's simply understanding what the sun means to us and what nature means to us. So it's, yeah, it's all about these things.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I'm gonna skip to the final song now,
Yeah,
which is really got my imagination. The imagery is so powerful in this song,
yeah.
and I struggle to understand how you can write lyrics that have different amount of syllables in every line and get it to work. Do you know what I'm saying? The whole I have to think of it now. I can't remember the lyrics now that I'm recording, right? Um, but it's about find the brightest star, look
Yeah,
two fingers to the left, and you see a band light and leave them all behind. I mean, it's just like, how do you even come up with something like that?
I wanted to create a map. It's just you're having your. It was really this. Um, I was in Ireland
Okay.
vacation,
Right.
and it was there's this place I think where they filmed a wonderful place where they filmed a Star Wars episode
Okay.
of having the sea behind, and it's really
Mhm.
a nice thing. And I remember when we went there and went away, and you had the sky with the stars, and I said, I have an idea, we have to go home. So it's and we lived there at a quite nice house, and we went there, and I just wrote this song, the basic of this song, because it's the fascination of there is someone else, there's someone else outside our belief, and you meet him and you become friends, and there will come the day when he has to leave.
Right.
This is really, I mean, it's not a sad song, because in my believing he's coming back and taking him home, and so this fascination of having another world out there. It's just, here the brightest star, 2 fingers to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go in a couple of hours, we are there. Let's go. So this is it has something liberating for a last song, and it was wonderful. It was, so we had it was very, very quick that we had the first and the last song really set. Okay. And a couple of questions for the middle of the record, but we did it.
Yeah, awesome. I think really it really bookended well. Both sides very strong, and like I said, it was just very odd because when I think about, I'm not a musician. When I think about songwriting, I kind of think of poetry and about how maybe lyrics might be, iambic pentameter or something like that. But this is all over the place. It's 5 syllables, then 8 syllables, and 6 syllables, and 5 syllables. I mean, it's just like, how did that? I don't even understand how that works so well. It's just a 4/4 time signature. I think that song too, but it just it seems more. It seems maybe a little bit more complex than a normal pop song. Maybe because of the lyrics and the visuals I get from it.
Yeah, I drive everyone crazy with the lyrics, because I'm sitting there and no, it has to be, and then I try to sing and it doesn't work, and I have to move around, and it's always I drive Carly crazy with this.
Yeah,
but it's okay. I think it's part of the band to even to try to connect the lyrics with the music so much, and I like that way of writing.
Right. Well, I definitely like it when your lyrics are a little bit more surreal. Thank you. I just came up with it. A little bit more surreal. I think The Fisherman, very surreal. This final track as well. Some other, 3 Lights is a great example of maybe some surreal lyrics. Because you said on stage that a lot of people maybe thought it had something to do with the Trinity or something religious, but it's just about a train headed your way, and I just thought that was a great addition to your surreal canon, as it were.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the artwork, because it's kind of like 1950s comic book. Where did that come from?
That's what we wanted to do. We had, and at the very beginning, I had the idea: if we make something about science fiction, let's do a comic.
Yeah,
comic where we put the songs into a comic. But it sounds very easy.
Does it?
You have to find someone that does it, that understands your world, and of course, you have to make it affordable, because you can't do a quick Disney work. It's clear, and so we came to a great artwork guy from Colombia that did all the things. Did the comic? We do a collector's box where we really put a comic in. I mean, it's not that big, but it's I think about 3 sides or something for 40 pages for every song, where the song has its story and you understand maybe better the song. But I liked it so much that we took this idea of this early year style comic book for the artwork, because it fits perfect to this sci-fi thing, I think.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about what's available. So there is a vinyl, 4 different color vinyl, 180 grams. There is a CD digipack, and then there's this box set that you kind of alluded to, right? It's a limited edition, I think 500 run. Yes. Is that correct? CD, comic book, signed cards, and
poster.
And poster. Okay.
And lots of things.
Okay. And that is the best way. What's the best way for us to buy it that gets the most money into your pockets? You know, is there go to General Art of Music, or what's the deal?
You're asking someone that really always wants to hold something in hands when he listens to something,
right?
Because this is the way I always did it, and I learned it, and it's. For me, it's more than that, because it's also seeing the artwork is a help into the music. So it's I think the easiest way, Mark, is you just download it, stream it. It will be on every platform available, of course. But I think the best way is getting as much as you can. Maybe the vinyl is a good way. It has the cover, and it has an inner sleeve with all the lyrics. But of course, the collector's box is the greatest opportunity to dive into the outer space. So it's
wonderful. All right. Well, I think I'm. Is there anything else that I didn't ask that we should let the listeners know? URLs or anything else about the album we should talk about before I let you go?
Not really. I think, as you said, some sounds sounding familiar right before. It reminded me on there's one song played where Guy Pratt played bass. This is because he played my solo album just
right, No Decoder,
about a couple of years ago, and I remember I recorded a song with him. And it was one of the songs of the album. I can't remember which song it was, but I just played it to him, and he sat there with his bass, and I played it to him, and I then rewind, and I asked him if I should write down the chords, and he looked at me and said, "No, it sounds familiar."
Okay.
Really laughing, and he's really a beautiful guy. So, but this song, it was I'm always talking in vinyls, so it's the B1 song, or the 4th song, if you want so.
Okay.
It was a song from this decade, so we recorded it with the whole band there. And nice story is that. Because it had a sci-fi lyric, and in this science fiction context, it didn't work at that time. So but of course I came up with this song when we decided to call it Tales of Outer Space, and had a couple of songs, and I played it to Kalle, and Kalle stood there and said, "Oh man, I won't do a country song." And but I said, "Hey, this is just a song," and he took it, and he came a couple of days later. He came up and said, "I added some strings," and I listened to it, and it was so fantastic, and it fitted perfectly into the whole thing. And so we left all the basic things, and he did a rhythm guitar, a new rhythm guitar. We added a couple of organ things that it sounds more 60s style, and he added the strings, and it fitted perfectly to the whole thing. So you see, maybe sometimes it's just a little idea that up the whole song into a totally new direction, and it was wonderful.
Well, it is one that is not our place to be. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's such a great song as well. Well, it's just up and down. I just love this album. So I want to thank you for your time, and hang with me. But I'm gonna stop the recording soon. But thanks for hanging out with us. And let's talk a little bit before I let you go. Let's talk about your tour and where you're going to be. I almost forgot to ask you that.
The tour is throughout Europe.
Yeah.
It starts in Britain,
Mm-hmm.
and let's see if we start there. If we really start there, because there's the Brexit.
Oh yeah, right. That's no joke.
Yeah, so we'll see. And we're starting in Britain and having a bit of Netherlands and Switzerland, and Germany and Poland, and it will be great fun. It's about a month.
And what month is that?
It's April.
April, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a wonderful. You're playing. I checked your list. You're playing some wonderful venues. I've heard this pronounced many different ways. I'll call it Zatamir, or not Zatamir. It is Borderay. You know, I'll tell you what. I've been there. The person at the hotel pronounced it one way. At the train stop, they pronounced it another way.
Yes.
The owner pronounced it a certain way. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then I think you're playing Spirit of 66 as well, another great venue. Yeah. So definitely check out RPWL at your nearest venue this year. It should be, you'll be playing a lot from this album, which is wonderful, I'm sure. People will love that. And again, thank you for being with me today, and good luck on the tour and the album.
I'm so grateful, Mark. It was wonderful talking. So
yeah, it's great talking with you, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure too.
Okay. Yeah.